we share a committed interest in defending the United States and defending our military and ensuring that our military is able to do its job. Just in the last, I think, 24 hours, I saw that one of our generals put forward a report basically detailing the extent to which our recruiting levels and morale levels are low, that it's at a particular time of difficulty for them in terms of recruiting. And I think that for my colleagues, particularly on this side of the aisle, who I've been engaging with about the National Defense Authorization Act, which is, I believe, going to be on the floor tomorrow under a suspension of the rules, which means we're not going to go through regular order. We're not going to be able to amend it. We're not going to be able to have any real significant debate on it. We're suspending the rules of the House, and we're going to try to jam this bill through with basically trying to get 2/3 of the chamber to just say, let's get this done, let's get out of town, let's go home for Christmas and send it to the Senate. Well, that's wrong, because the problem is, to my colleagues who think we need to do this for our men and women in uniform, the truth is this is undermining our men and women in uniform. We're destroying the soul, we're destroying the culture, we're destroying the morale of those men and women who sign up to serve and who are frustrated. They're frustrated by being put in indoctrination classes on diversity, equity, inclusion. They're frustrated by critical race theory being pushed. They're frustrated by abortion tourism funding with taxpayer dollars and transgender surgeries. They're frustrated by being fired from their job because they dared to say no to getting a COVID vaccine. They're frustrated about the state of affairs when our military is being turned into a social engineering experiment instead of being committed to its core function, which is to defend this country when called upon to do so. That's the truth. And our men and women in uniform want change. They want us to stand up and change it. So what did Republicans do? In one of the great demonstrations of what a body can do with a razor-thin majority, we passed a National Defense Authorization Act in July that was a responsible bill that would fundamentally make sure our military is focused on its core responsibilities and would ensure that our military is able to do its job without being focused on engineering. And with that, here's the thing. Republicans passed a responsible National Defense Authorization Act that will make sure our military is focused on its mission. You can see here, House GOP's bill, right? All of the green check marks. What we're talking about here, we ended President Biden's taxpayer-funded abortion travel fund, which enables abortion tourism with taxpayer-funded dollars. We ended taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries. We ended Biden's radical climate agenda and the carrying out of his executive order, which will promote and push his radical agenda into our military so that we'll have a forced migration to electric vehicles and all of the mandates of the Biden executive orders in the Pentagon. It would protect service members who were discharged for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. It would ban the drag shows and drag queen story hour on DOD installations, prohibit critical race theory. It would create an inspector general for the Ukraine aid. It would prohibit race-based admissions at our military academies. And it would eliminate the chief diversity officers and all of these positions that are divvying us up by race. But here's the thing. Senator Schumer and the Democrats created a bill that did none of those things because they want our military to be a social engineering experiment. Now, to my colleagues on this side of the aisle that said, Chip, you're just focusing on the social issues. That's not true. That's not true. COVID vaccines that force some of our men and women in uniform off of their duty, that's not a social issue. That's their job. It is also not true if you go look through all of the things, for example, the Inspector General with respect to Ukraine, other issues. None of the changes that we embrace to try to get our military focused where it needs to be were embraced by Democrats. So then what happens? At the end of the year, when everybody's panicked, and they go around this town, and all of the defense lobbyists and all of the people that go around saying, oh my God, you got to pass the National Defense Authorization Act or the entire world's going to end and we're not going to be able to defend the country. Well, that's not true. Okay, it's not true. We believe we should pass such a bill, but that's not true. That's legislating by fear. But what you see here is this NDAA compromise, okay? National Defense Authorization Act compromise. Now, you think that went through some regular process we've been fighting for this year. Go to, quote, conference committee between the Senate and the House. Wrong. That didn't happen. There was a conference set up, but what happened is the leaders all got together, decided what they wanted to jam through before Christmas. They went to the conference and they said, take it or leave it. Basically, they said, take it. And then their conferees sent it back to us. 5 of them didn't sign it. That's the truth. So what did we get? Well, you see the red X's? You see the one green check bans critical race theory, which, by the way, hard to enforce, but okay, we got that. You got some weak reforms here with respect to the vaccine issue with COVID-19, and you got weak reforms with respect to the Inspector General of Ukraine. In other words, we got one piece of it. We didn't get everything we had put in there, and that's it. We didn't get the other stuff. But that's not what they're telling you. They'll go around and telling you, they say, oh yeah, we ended the drag, queen story hour. That's not true. What they did is they're accepting the Defense Department's characterization of the rules they're going to follow. They didn't actually include the language that restricts it. So here's the way this town works. And then I'm going to yield to my friend from Georgia because I just want everybody to understand. This is the way this town works. You govern by fear. You go up to a deadline and you say, you must do this. Because I haven't got to the whipped cream with the cherry on top, which is this defense bill, watered down, that not one Republican should support. Let me be clear. There is no justification for supporting a bill that does not materially change the direction of our military away from being social engineering back toward its mission. But what did they do? They added the extension of surveillance, what we call FISA. Okay? What does that mean? You've read about all of the surveillance that has been carried out on American citizens. You know about it all through Carter Page. You know about the extent to which there's been rampant abuses by the FBI targeting American citizens, backdooring the ability to go gather information on non-Americans and use that to target Americans. It happened. They took January 6th names and they stuck them into the database, the query, the database that was collected on these non-American targets. They put the names of January 6th people into the database. Oh, the FBI says, don't worry, we've fixed it. But man, can we really see what it was that they fixed? Can we really look under the hood? We're trying to pass reforms to what we call FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. We should pass reforms right now before we leave town. If we don't, we should all be eating our Christmas dinner on the floor of this house. But no, what are we going to do tomorrow? We're going to take the National Defense Authorization Act with all of these red X's. Yes, it's true. All of you leadership hack staffers that are running around saying it's not true, come down and debate me on it because it's true. And they're going to add a FISA extension that will take it to April of this next year. And worse yet, the procedures under that will extend all the way until April of 2025. Then my colleagues get frustrated and they say, well, Chip, why do you say things like name one thing we've done? Because of this. Because we extend the same stuff and kick the can down the road. We do a National Defense Authorization Act which changes precious little. We jam it through, violating our own rules with respect to germaneness and single subject bills. We pile on FISA, we extend it to April of 25, and then we go to the American people and we lie to them and we say we did something great. We should reject this. My colleagues should reject it tomorrow. We should stand up for the American people. Do what we said we would do. I'm going to yield back to my friend from Texas.